Hello. Um, for today, I will be discussing Wishbone episodes based on two more stories that everybody already knows, Charles Dickens' Oliver Twist and William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, which I point to, even though you can't see, I've got the complete Shakespeare over there on the shelf. It's really big, so I didn't bring it down to hold up during the video. But I have this very dynamic picture from the cover of Oliver Twist here. The Oliver Twist Wishbone episode is called Twisted Tale. I'll start with that one. That is episode 3 of Wishbone. And my blog post from when I read this book is in the is below in the section where I write things and post links, whatever that's called. So, the one thing, the introduction to the book is kind of, usually it's a little bit more graceful, I think, in the Wishbone episodes. The episode opens, Wishbone is just ranting about how hungry he is, and his bowl is empty, nobody's home. Then he rushes over into the library and paws out a hardcover of Oliver Twist and says, "Ah, yes, Oliver Twist." It's just very blunt, like we're going to go right into this, because the most iconic part of Oliver Twist is Oliver asking for some more. And this is one of the first things that I noticed, and this is why you got to read the book, in the Wishbone episode. And the Wishbone episode again is my first interpretation, or the first interpretation that I saw of the story, my first exposure to the story. He makes a whole big defiant speech about, "I'm going to go get more," and then he very demurely, when he gets up there, he very demurely says the iconic words, "Please, sir, I want some more." In the book, it is peer pressure. That Oliver, it doesn't go because, I mean, obviously they all the orphanages at the place want more food. They are starving, but it's not his idea. He doesn't go for self gain or anything. It's peer pressure. He is voted the one to go and ask for more food, and he pays the price for it. So again, that's why it's great to have Wishbone to introduce people to these the great works, but actually read the great works. So anyway, we find out a bit about Joe's dad today. He died when Joe was 6, apparently, but he was a basketball coach and knew Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. They have a signed card framed in their living room. And Joe has a new friend because none of Joe, David, or Sam, none of the kids are orphans. They introduced a parentless kid into the cast just for this one episode, I think. I don't know if Max shows up anywhere else, but to be a kind of parallel with Oliver that Joe can't be, Sam can't be, and David can't be. And then there's also an Artful Dodger character that I don't think shows up in any other episodes. So Max shows up, and the show deals with, the pressures that parentless children are under, how they can be easily influenced. Max is demonstrated to be very hungry when he visits Joe. He eats a lot and shares some with Wishbone, and kind of paralleling Oliver's "Please, sir, I want some more." So there's that, and it's not blunt. It's not as blunt as that opening, but it introduces kids watching PBS, probably in their family home. Not everyone is lucky enough to have a family at this point in their lives. Hopefully, they eventually get one. It also, if kids without parents are watching, it shows them they are on TV. Not in every episode of Wishbone, but here's someone for them to pitch themselves into and feel like part of the story. The Oliver Twist is about how the parentless children are recruited and used to steal, and in this episode, the Artful Dodger character, the older parentless child, who takes Max under his wing, in kind of it's a battle for Max's soul with Joe, but he is also, like Max, lives at the home, is parentless, and Max is kind of seduced. And this guy is turns out to be the one stealing things. There's a miniature crime wave in, I guess, Oakdale, and Wanda talks about having a flamingo ornament stolen off of her lawn, um, and uh, and she talks about she's the one who brings the idea in and says the police think it's kids. She sets up the whole thing. Um, Now David, who is Joe's friend, he's a very technological guy. He puts things together. He offers to rig up a security system from scratch for Wanda, and he uses Wishbone barking as the alarm. And so that's a neat thing, um, a neat detail. More developing David as the tech wizard, the video game guy, the computer guy, and just beginning to be a trope, I think, around the time that Wishbone was being made. And let's see, we find out that Sam's parents are divorced, and that depending on which one she's staying with month to month, she does a different after-school activity. And so her mom had her doing karate, but now she's with her dad, and her dad wants her to do ballroom dancing, and so she shows up at one point in a pristine white dress with white gloves, and she's not happy about it. And so a little bit more developing her as the sporty character. She would rather be doing karate, although the outfit is also pure white. Let's see. There was a point where I wrote, and I mentioned last time I love coaxing or crafting good performances out of real animals instead of CGI animals who are probably motion capture in some way. And there was one point where I thought where Wishbone kind of darted forward, and the kids kind of looked at him, and I thought, I wonder if the kids are looking at him in character, or if they're wondering, is the dog going to ruin the take again? So that's fun, and that's another reason why such performances are such a delight to watch. Let's see. Wishbone ends up, David again rigs up a camera. It's essentially a GoPro, and he rigs it up, harnesses it to Wishbone, and Wishbone goes into where Max says all the stolen stuff is, with a camera taking recordings of, finds the flamingo and everything, and we hear Wishbone's inner monologue, I guess, while he's doing this, and he exposes the criminal, and then he chases the guy. No, he chases the guy earlier, but he calls himself Cyberdog, Canine Candid Camera Against Crime. I thought that was cute. And then for the rest of the show, he's kind of, I guess is the sort of thing a dog would do. He's been dressed up in a funny costume, and he just won't stop joking about it. And meanwhile, Joe is wearing a VR thing on his head, also presumably something that David rigged up, which looks like this VR thing that I've been seeing advertised on YouTube, not on my channel because I have so few views, but it's just a commercial that I've been seeing for this thing, and then it shows up on Wishbone in a much more rudimentary version. So that was just interesting. So the next episode, I'm going to keep, now I'll put Dickens away because I don't want it to get confusing. The next episode, Rosie O, based on Romeo and Juliet, which I have read. Again, it's in the book up there. I read it in college a while ago. It's another one I already knew. I saw the Leonardo DiCaprio movie. I saw the Haley Steinfeld movie. And I think I've seen at least one other movie, possibly with Mel Gibson. I don't know. That might have been Hamlet. And I saw a college production a couple of years ago, and the students were great. Production values, great, whatever. But it was one of those situations where I was watching it and I realized this is not, like, I love King Lear and Othello and Hamlet and Macbeth and The Tempest. I love a lot of Shakespeare. I was watching Romeo and Juliet and thinking, the only reason any of this is interesting is because I know where it's going. And so I wonder how long, like, obviously some people saw Romeo and Juliet hundreds of years ago and they didn't know where it was going. But I wonder how long Romeo and Juliet has been coasting on the everyone knows what's going to happen, and so they're watching and they're thinking, oh no, this is not going to end well, and that's why people watch it. I didn't love the early scenes and acts of Romeo and Juliet. And what's interesting about this episode is that since it's a play, um, the the dramatization of it is as a production, and not even an old Globe production. Not old Globe is an actual modern theater, but a Globe theater production in Shakespeare's time. We see exit signs on doors, and um, actors and backstage and doing makeup and whatnot, and then we see the scenes play out on a small stage. So not like the world of London created for Oliver Twist, but just a small stage with painted sets, and it's an interesting creative way to do it. They could have done what they do with all the other dramatizations, which is build somewhat full but big, all-encompassing sets. But they did this interesting thing and showed a little backstage theater type stuff. I wondered early on if, since it was a play and they were presenting it that way, they were going to stick closer to the dialogue than they usually do. They didn't, because Wishbone's got to be snarky. And this episode was also the first one where there are other dogs, at least where that's an important detail. And it occurred to me, well, the premise is Wishbone loses his collar, gets taken to the pound, and before he gets picked up, he falls in love with another dog in the pound named Rosie. And Sam finds that she wants to adopt Rosie, but she has to get her father's permission. That's the overall plot of the story, and it follows Sam, maybe not quite as much as Joe, but it gives her, and Wishbone, not being her dog, is off screen for a significant portion of the story when it's concentrating on her. So that was interesting. I wonder how many going forward. I wonder how many episodes I'll see where it. I'm sure there are some, but where it doesn't concentrate on Joe and Wishbone, but gives Sam or David the limelight. I know that they are the focus of quite a few. It just, this time through, it occurred to me, because I'm taking notes for the first time. I've never taken notes while watching most TV shows, except for starting this year for doing this thing. The show goes over proper collar protocol, but what I was getting at was there are dogs other than Wishbone, and they don't have voices, and they don't have personalities, at least not that the audience can hear or see. So my thought was, if Wishbone had his way and had a romantic relationship with Rosie, how romantic would it be, and would it be fulfilling for him, since he is so well read and she is a dog, like a real dog. So that just occurred to me, but I'm sure he would make it work. He was obviously, at the very least, infatuated, so there was something there. The show goes over proper collar protocol, reminding people, including presumably kids watching at home, make sure your dogs, all your pets, are properly identifiable. And so that's just being responsible. Sam, it turns out, is not responsible. The second time Wishbone gets taken to the pound, Sam happens by because she wants to just take Rosie home temporarily, introduce her dad to the dog, and say, I want to keep the dog. And she sees Wishbone there too, and they give her Wishbone because she was there when Joe picked him up before. She brings both dogs home, and then she unleashes them in her front yard to wait outside the front door for her to bring her dad out. And her dad is not home. She sits in the hallway, not out with the dogs, but in the hallway waiting. And this does not demonstrate that she should be allowed to adopt a dog. The dogs run around. Wishbone takes Rosie to Wanda's garden to run around. Wanda calls the pet people who take Rosie away, take Wishbone next door. And Wanda's a very complicated character. She's kind of a reminder that people have the sides that you don't like, and they have the sides that you like. And you keep them around for what you like, and you hope that what you don't like doesn't get in the way. And Wanda doesn't know that Sam wants to adopt Rosie, so she can be forgiven for that. But again, Sam demonstrated a huge lack of judgment, just unleashing the dogs in the front yard and leaving them there. She should have tied them up or taken them inside. Maybe dogs weren't allowed inside. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, and the writers let the viewers believe that Rosie is put to sleep just briefly, which, and this is also because everyone knows how Romeo and Juliet ends, um, and that would have been very tragic. But it is quickly revealed, no, she was adopted. Um, it was getting down to the wire with her that she would be put asleep, but she was adopted moments before Sam finally returns to the pound to get her. So that's good for everyone, I think. Um, Wishbone probably understands this, but still grieves the loss of Rosie. But I'm sure he'll be fine. Hopefully, he'll find another literate dog. And Sam ends up volunteering to help at the shelter, which is another good lesson for young people. Yeah, so that's those two episodes. I believe the very next one is the Odyssey, which we got a Mark Twain, a Charles Dickens, a William Shakespeare, and now we're gonna have a Greek epic poem. So they get more interesting as far as choices. Not as interesting as they could, but yeah, we'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching, and between now and the next episode, let's wag another tail.